Hey, what's going on, guys? It's finally here, Hunter x Hunter Chapter 409. Let's talk about it. But before we actually start with the chapter itself, I got a nice little shirt here to show you. A nice little Crollo shirt. So I think this looks absolutely badass. Got this off of eBay, and I am absolutely happy with this. This is phenomenal. But anyway, let's start with the chapter itself. And I will say, before we actually start with the chapter, I do got a little bit of a cold right now. My throat's a little bit sore, so if I sound like I'm straining a little bit, that's why. But with special martial law declared, passengers on tier 4 and 5 will be unaffected by the law. So, they still got to go about their normal, routines. They still got to follow the rules of the police that are down there and everything like that. But nothing else is really going to change. They're basically unaffected. However, Tier 3 passengers are going to need to face up against the wall, get on their knees, and put their hands against the wall itself. So this is definitely going to affect them. In addition to this, all military personnel will be given permission to shoot on sight. So if anyone looks suspicious, if anyone is doing anything out of the ordinary, they could shoot to kill. They got that permission at this point, so it's going to get kind of dicey here, it looks like. We're probably going to see a lot of bloodshed, we're going to see a lot of action, and damn, things are going to get really exciting. Now, Borksen observes something really interesting right here. She's getting very tense. Now, Borksen thinks that probably the Haley hideout is on tier 3. This would make sense why she's so tense right now, because if their members are on tier 3, then they're going to have to be put up against the wall, they're going to be under more stringent rules, and they can't really carry out their plans like they wanted to. Now, tier 2 civilians have to go back to their rooms. So in addition to going back to their rooms, they got to put their hands on the table, or they got to keep them up in the air. And Borksen's like, this is really interesting, because Morena is surprisingly calm about this situation. She doesn't seem unnerved about it. She doesn't seem worried. She's just kind of like, okay, it's happening, whatever. Now, this whole situation with martial law actually works out to Borksen's benefit, because if the Royal Army breaks into the Haley hideout and takes down the Haley members, puts them in jail, or even shoots them, then Borksen is saved in effect, and she can go back to the Royal Army. However, there's a bit of a caveat to this, because they might assume that Borksen is working with the Haley members. They're like, well, you're in the Haley hideout and you're playing a game with them. That's kind of suspicious. What are you doing there, Borksen? And then they might assume that she's part of the Haley, put her in jail, torture her perhaps, put her up for questioning. So this could be a positive, it could be a negative. Now with that, the game finally resumes. Now if Borksen fulfills a small request of Morena, she could take one of her cards back from the graveyard and put it back in her hand. And the small request is that she's got to give Morena a kiss. Now that's pretty interesting, because we know with Morena's contagion that if she kisses someone, that she gives them Nen abilities, that she gives them the potential to enter Morena's game, where each kill stacks up points, and the more points you have, the stronger your abilities are. And Morena even states that she wants a deep kiss, and it has to go as long as she deems fit. If it's, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, that's part of the deal, I guess. And, she even tells Borksen that it's a part of her ability, which is kind of interesting. Morena is divulging all this information. She's just like telling her everything about the Black Whale boat, about her plan, about what happened to her in the Kaken Empire, about her abilities. So it's a very interesting situation. She's opening herself up to Borksen, and I think that's working out to Morena's benefit. I think it's all part of Morena's plan where, hey, I'm going to tell you everything about you. I'm going to tell you everything about me. I want you to commiserate with me. I want you to understand everything about the Haley family, so that when you actually do join the Haley family, that you're one of us. You understand us. You're with our plan. That's all part of it. It's all part and parcel. And I think it's a smart decision on Morena's part, because, except if the X card is played, then Borksen knows all this information and she gets away scot-free. But we'll see how that plays out when we get there. Now, there are 3 conditions to being a Haley member. 1, you have to say yes to the negotiation game, or yes as a final response to the negotiation game. 2, you must get a kiss from Morena. And 3, you must witness Morena or a Haley member in the act of killing someone. Now, a broadcast comes out that Tier 1 members are to go back to their rooms and wait for further instructions. Now, this is really interesting because this broadcast is not supposed to go out to any of the other tiers, only to Tier 1, which means that Morena's room must be in Tier 1, right? If she's getting this broadcast, then it must be in Tier 1. However, maybe they've rigged the PA system. Maybe they rigged the broadcast where it's feeding into their room regardless, which could mean that their room is on any of the tiers. It could be on 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. But anyway, the game resumes and Borksen says yes to the request. Now, after the kiss takes place, Morena determines that this was her first time. And Borksen's like, well, how the heck would you know that just from a kiss? Like, what the heck is going on here? Now, is that part of Morena's ability where she could tell it's someone's first time? We don't really know at this moment, but, it's kind of interesting. And I do think it's kind of funny how Morena gets a little bit embarrassed by finding out that it's Borksen's first time. You got all these dangerous situations going on the Black Whale boats. I mean, heck, in the last chapter, we found out that Morena was serving as meat for the Kakin Empire for 20 years. I mean, that just absolutely horrific stuff. But in the next chapter, Togashi injects a little bit of levity. He's like, giving you a little bit of a nice, calm moment. So it kind of breaks the tension a little bit. It kind of gives you, a little bit of like, okay, we can breathe a little bit. The tension is sort of lifted in a way. Now, by fulfilling the request and giving the kiss to Morena, she gets the X card back to her hand. However, because she was engaging in the kiss, she wasn't focusing on her cards at the moment. So she suspects that one of the Haley members might have swapped one of the cards. This is kind of interesting because then Morena's like, well, how dare you? Like, why would you suspect that we would do that? Like, you don't trust me? Like, I've been forthright this entire game. Like, how could you assume that? And again, it's another really cute moment by Morena. Like, despite all the horrific stuff that has happened to her, she still displays this innocence and this cuteness, and I just think it's awesome. Like, I think it's amazing that Togashi can inject that into the manga despite all the stuff that's going on. So again, a really nice moment. So anyway, they flip over the cards for Borksen's benefit, and it's still the no and the R cards. So no shenanigans happen. They kept their end of the deal. They're not going to be devious. They're not going to try to trick her or cheat or anything like that. So everything's on the up and up. Borksen then draws her next card, and it's the X card. So that goes back to the graveyard. Borksen then chooses the Q&A card, and she begins by questioning Morena about the location of the hideout. She's like, is it on tier 5? And Morena's like, no. Tier 4, no. 3, no. 2, no. 1, no. Wait, there's only 5 tiers on the ship. What the heck does that mean then? But then Borksen finds something out. She's like, well, is it in an end space? And Morena's like, yes and no. And then somehow Borksen figures out that it's between tiers 2 and 3. Apparently it was built within the ship itself. So it must have been where the Haley members were actually involved with the construction of the Black Whale boat, and they built a special tier for themselves. So the vibrations that have been happening have been the gates closing between tiers 2 and 3. And we also find out that there are 5 entrances to the Haley hideout itself, which is, pretty interesting in and of itself. And I would imagine that there are 5 different locations on the Black Whale boat, which, gives them ease of access and ease of exit. Now, Borksen starts grilling her about the different abilities of the members, how many members there are, which, there are 21, including Morena. Morena is the only specialist, and interesting little side note, Morena does not know all the abilities of all her members. So kind of interesting stuff there. Are some of the members keeping that a secret? Is it designed that way? Or does she just simply not know because some of the members haven't discovered their abilities yet? Also, another interesting thing, we found out with Morena's contagion ability that there can be a total of 23 members in the Haley group. So 23 members at a time. There's 21 right now. If Borksen were to join them, that would be 22, which means that they could still bring in one more member. Who would that be? Would that be someone we know about right now? I would imagine so. Would it be one of the princes? Would it be one of the bodyguards? Would it be a spider possibly? Who the heck knows? But yeah, really interesting stuff, guys. And now, learning all this information throughout the game, Borksen says that she will change the Kakin Empire from within. She'll do it in her own way. She wants to make things a little better. She understands that things are, not so great right now. There's a lot of egregious stuff that's going on within the Kakin Empire. And she also wants to determine if Morena will somewhat change her ways, if she'll just change even in the slightest. And every time that Borksen grills her about this, Morena says no. And from Morena's perspective, she's like, look, the horrors of the Kakin Empire are just too egregious. You expect me to give them any sympathy whatsoever? It's not going to happen. I'm going to destroy Kakin. They have screwed me over in more ways than one. It's over. They're going to die, and I'm going to revel in it. And I even wonder if Borksen was doing this because she's like, at some level, I do agree with you, Morena. Like, I do agree Kakin is a terrible empire, and I want to be on your side, but I feel like you're just going too far. If you just change your ways, just even in the slightest, I could get on board with this. And still, Morena's like, what do you want me to do? This is my plan. I'm not changing it. Borksen's last card is flipped over, and she now holds the R card in her hand. So her destiny is in her hand, and all the Haley members, including Morena, think that it's over. She's going to choose the X card. But in a surprising turn of events, she chooses the Yes card. And I actually predicted this about a chapter or two ago where I was like, I feel like throughout the game that Borksen will actually choose the Yes card herself. That it won't be a trick. It won't be any subversion. That Borksen will just decide that, yes, I feel like this is the right decision at this point. Now, it might be a situation where Borksen is like, well, with martial law going on, it's just too risky. It's just too risky for me to go out there. I mean, think about this. She leaves the royal army and there's no martial law. And then if she were to come back and there is martial law, there could be severe consequences. There could be a lot of doubts. There could be a lot of, where the heck were you? What was going on? Where were your whereabouts? What were you doing? And if she even hints at the idea that she was at the Haley hideout, she's going to be taken in for questioning. She's probably going to be thrown into jail. That's not an ideal situation. So from that perspective, it's good to be with the Haley hideout just for protective reasons at the moment. Just until martial law is disbanded. On a second front, Kakin is a terrible empire. Even if she just stays with them until they take down the Kakin Empire and then she turns on them, that's a good result at the end of the day. We also have to keep in mind as well that she was in Serednik's room and she has access to his staff and to him. And now that she's learned all this information, I would imagine she knows about the terrible things that he's done. She might want to go back there and use her influence and maybe try to kill Serednik. I mean, could we even imagine a situation where she gets 100 points and creates her own community, but does it in a way where she doesn't destroy the world? She's like, look, Morena, I like your ways. I like the methods. And I like the abilities that you have, but I will create my own community. I'll create a community with, the royal guards that we saw in chapter 394 and do it my own way. Maybe that's what she's thinking. Kill a prince, 50 points, kill another prince, 50 points, bam, you got 100, create your own community, and then take out the Haley and do it your own way. Or, maybe somehow convince the Haley to join your side. But that doesn't seem like a possibility. I mean, Morena's not going to change her ways. But I do think, Borksen, being a specialist, maybe she's got this plan where she wants to create her own community and do it her own way. I feel like that is a real possibility at this point. But, God damn, man, this is just getting so exciting. Like, this game was so great. Like, I know a lot of people are disappointed by it, but I feel with the end result and how things worked out, this was absolutely fantastic. And I feel like we're in for a banger for chapter 410. I feel like a lot of stuff is going to go on. And I really want to see what went on with Halkenberg and Benjamin, because I mean, come on, we got to see how martial law was declared. I mean, I feel like Togashi owes it to us at that point. But tell me what you guys saw of this chapter, and I'll catch you in a week.